Hi, welcome back to Mr. Silver's Math. Today we're going to focus on factoring and solving using ZPP. So you're going to be able to solve an equation using the zero product property rule. The warm-up is just getting us ready to solve equations again. This is what we saw yesterday, zero product property, where it was already factored for us. So I see a set of parentheses. I'm going to set that set of parentheses equal to 0. I see a variable on the outside of the parentheses. I'm going to set that equal to 0, and that's going to give me my two different answers. Same thing over here. I have two different sets of parentheses. I set each equal to 0, and I solve. Remember, all of the problems that you are seeing in today's lesson, I have designed for you. Okay? It's not all-encompassing of every single example that you're going to see. It's just what I'm designing for this particular class. And then warm-up question 2 is just having you factor the trinomial, because today we are combining both of these. I'm going to have you factor and then solve. So the first example says factor and then solve the following equations, round to the nearest tenth if needed. This first section is just finding the greatest common factor of the binomials and then solving. So if you notice, each of these has two terms. Okay, so I'm going to identify the greatest common factor first. I'm going to factor that out, which is the C in letter A, and then I'm going to write what's left after I divide by C. So recall that we subtract our powers. So 2 minus 1 is 1. That's why I just have C, or you can write C to the first power. And then 3C divided by C is just going to be 3. So I have C equals 0 and C plus 3 equals 0, and then I solve. Same thing on letter B. I look for a greatest common factor, a number and or number letter combo that they both have in common. So they both, if I look at the coefficients of 4 and 20, they each have a 4. That's the largest number they have in common. And then I look at the variables, they each have the same letter, so I take the lowest power. So in this case, it is going to be an x. So my greatest common factor is 4x. When I divide both of those, I'm left with x minus 5, and then I solve. 4x equals 0, x minus 5 equals 0. Likewise for letter C and letter D. Example 2 is having you do the same thing, but this time instead of binomials, we're focusing on trinomials. So we're going to round to the nearest tenth if needed. So we list our factors of the last term, or the constant, and then we see which ones add to give us the middle number. Notice on most of these, I listed all of the factors, and then I did the math to figure out which one is going to add, in this case, letter A, to give me positive 1, which is the negative 6 and 7. So I factored it, okay? But because this is an equation, it says we got to solve, that means it equals 0. So now I'm back to the ZPP. X minus 6 equals 0, x plus 7 equals 0. And I solve, and I end up getting two answers. So letter B, I factor. All right, list the factors of 26. My signs are negative, positive, so that means everything is negative, and I see which ones add to give me that middle term, that linear term, which is negative 15. I write those answers. So negative 2 and negative 3 are the factors that work. I write it in my sets of parentheses, x minus 2 and x minus 13. And because I'm solving, it equals 0. I set each factor equal to 0 and solve. Letter C and D are the same concept, just using different numbers. So you need to factor first, and then go ahead and do the zero product property rule to solve. You are going to have two answers for all of these, because all of these are quadratic functions. Meaning I have a power of 2. So I'm going to have two different answers. Notice all of the work that went into solving one of these equations. It is okay that you do all that work. But it is also okay if you look at 84 and you know right away that 6 and 14 are going to add to give you the 20x that you need. That's fine. Right? But it's also fine that you show all the work. Not a big deal. So if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. Otherwise, thanks for stopping in. Until next time.